Hey, what's up, Eagles fans? Welcome to another edition of Eagles Latest right here on FanArch. I'm your host, Cory Nidoh. Well, we've got plenty to talk about in this episode today, and we're going to kick it off with some roster moves as the Eagles announced that they opened up the practice window for veteran safety Marcus Epps and released cornerback Perry Nickerson from the practice squad. And now Epps will have 3 weeks to get ramped up and try to become a healthy participant once again for the Philadelphia Eagles after being injured a month ago and landed himself on the injured reserve. So Epps will be back in action, and we'll see what he can bring to this team. He has appeared in 8 games this year, but primarily in special teams. 119 snaps on special teams to just 15 on the defensive side of the football. But this is a guy who has spent time as a starter in a Philadelphia Eagles uniform. He played with Philadelphia from 2019 to 2022. Of course, that last season as a Bird, he was the starting safety for the Eagles Super Bowl team. And then he got paid by Las Vegas, went to the Raiders for 2 years, started all 17 games in 23 before missing the bulk of last season after tearing his ACL in the third game of the year. So Epps has been banged up in each of the last 2 seasons, but he does bring a veteran presence alongside Reed Blankenship. He's played in 90 career games. He's made 45 career starts, and he could be a little bit of a boost over Sidney Brown, who we saw struggled quite a bit in that loss against Chicago in coverage. He was really lucky that Caleb Williams didn't connect on 2 touchdown passes that should have been touchdowns with Brown in coverage. So we'll see what Marcus Epps can bring to the table. Of course, the Eagles are without their rookie safety, Drew Makuba, still for at least the foreseeable future, as he is recovering from a fractured ankle that he suffered a couple weeks ago. And we'll see if we actually get to see Makuba return this year. I think it will depend on how deep of a playoff run the Philadelphia Eagles end up going on, if we'll see the second round pick of this year's draft back on the field for Philadelphia. Speaking of possibly seeing somebody back in an Eagles jersey, Darius Slay and the Steelers have reportedly parted ways, and Darius Slay still wants to play. Big play Slay has had a tough year this year. He has not played that well, was a healthy scratch this past weekend, which drew some eyes on it, raised some eyebrows, and now we'll see, do the Eagles take a flyer on the former Eagle? He is familiar with the city. He was beloved by a lot of the fans, and he had a good career and really a solid, I should say better than solid, a career year last year with the Eagles. Good friend Jeff Kerr, formerly of CBS Sports, tweeted out some great stats here with Darius Slay and how he performed last season. He set career best in completion percentage, yards allowed, yards per attempt, 20-plus yard completions, first downs allowed, and pass breakup rate. So this is a guy who really thrived last year playing opposite of Quinyon Mitchell. Again, we mentioned he is a familiar name to the team, to the city, to the organization, and he likes to play zone. He's better in zone. The Steelers play man 33% of the time. They've actually been playing more zone this year than in years past at a 64% clip. The Eagles are a bit higher at 70%, so it could be a fit potentially. We saw the Eagles take a flyer on Jair Alexander. Obviously, that did not work out as Alexander has stepped away from football. But yeah, the Eagles could use a cornerback just for some depth. I don't think fans love the idea of Adoree Jackson and Kelee Ringo all season long, but that's what they've been rolling with. We don't know where Jacorian Bennett is. They traded for him with Las Vegas early in the season. He was dealing with an injury, and then Vic Fangio mentioned that Bennett just hasn't had enough practice reps to warrant starting time, but that's been a couple weeks now, so I'm not sure if Bennett just isn't succeeding well right now. We haven't really heard much about the cornerback over the last couple of weeks. Maybe we'll hear more this week as the team begins to hit the practice field here today. But nonetheless, it's an interesting question to pose. It's something to think about. Obviously, Darius Slay enjoyed his time with Philadelphia, but the writing was on the wall that they were probably going to let him walk this year. He signed with the Steelers rather early in the offseason, and then it just hasn't worked out for the longtime veteran. So we'll see what the Eagles do. I wouldn't be opposed to bringing him in. I mean, I don't think he could be as worse as Adoree Jackson or Kelee Ringo at this point. And he's a veteran presence who's respected, can maybe help with some of these younger guys, can help bring up the morale of the locker room. Not saying that it's completely shot or down, but you bring a guy who won a Super Bowl with this team and knows what it takes to win, knows how to bring that winning culture into the locker room. It's not going to be a distraction, perhaps. It could be a good move for the Eagles. Ironically, the other team that I think could be in competition with the Eagles if they were to bring Slay back is his former team, the Detroit Lions. They just had to shut down Terrion Arnold for the season with an injury, so now they are down a cornerback. So it'll be interesting to see if they are potential suitors for Darius Big Play Slay. So something to keep an eye on, something that I'm certainly not against. I think that could be a solid flyer for the Eagles this late in the season. If anything else, just to provide more depth in case Adoree Jackson goes down, in case Kelee Ringo goes down. I don't think Slay would be behind Ringo in a sense of the depth chart once he gets caught up with the defense, which he's familiar with because Vic Fangio was here, of course, last season. So it'll be certainly something fun to watch as Darius Slay's short tenure with the Pittsburgh Steelers has come to an end. Now we move over to the offensive side of the football for the Philadelphia Eagles, and boy, there was a lot of discussion surrounding Jalen Hurts, especially yesterday, later in the afternoon. As is life in Philadelphia, it seems like the quarterback is always one of the most scrutinized positions in all of the city. And let's be honest, Jalen Hurts does deserve some of the scrutiny and some of the criticism. He did not play a good game on Friday. He did not look good. Missed some wide open wide receivers, made some bad reads, turned the ball over twice, and that's very uncharacteristic of him in terms of the turnovers. But Jalen Hurts, they need to figure something out with him because there's smoke coming out of the locker room, and people are reporting that this is happening and the players aren't that thrilled with him and how he's handling everything. We obviously know that they had a conversation with Hurts about how he was being a leader or a lack thereof a couple of seasons ago, and they wanted him to be a little bit more proactive and more vocal in that regard. But for Jalen Hurts right now, I think he just needs to step it up a bit, to put it in layman's terms. There are reports from really great beat writers in Jimmy Kemsky and Jeff McClain, where they have heard that Jalen Hurts has told the team that he doesn't really want to run the football anymore, especially on the designed runs. And the Eagles seem to have obliged so far. Obviously, the design run numbers have been low. Even the tush-push utilization has been lower than in seasons past. And I think they have the right mindset because we've seen Hurts get hurt down the stretch of the last couple of seasons. Obviously, last year when he got the concussion against Washington and he missed a couple of games with that. You don't want him to get hurt, of course. However, that is what makes Jalen Hurts so dangerous. He's not a great passer. He's not going to be able to drop back and dissect defenses, and especially with this banged up and inconsistent offensive line that has struggled all season. Last year, yes, he won the Super Bowl MVP. He beat the Chiefs through the air. They stopped Saquon Barkley. I'm not saying Hurts can never not win a game with his arm. However, it's not going to be a frequent occurrence. He's not a Matt Stafford where he could just sit back and dissect defenses, anticipate his throws. He's more of a guy where he throws to the open wide receiver opposed to a Matt Stafford, even a Josh Allen, somebody that says, okay, here's a window. As long as I hit this window, I know that A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith will be there. That's not how Jalen Hurts throws the football. So the fact that there's reports coming out that he's saying he doesn't want to run the football, that's a little problematic, in my opinion, because then that takes away what makes him so lethal. And it is the fact that he can tuck it and run. Now, obviously, he comes out and he always says, hey, I will do whatever I can to win football games. He doesn't care what it takes, how it looks. The end of the day, he wants to win as many football games as possible. And I think that's still true. However, if these reports, which are coming from really trusted reporters, is true, well, then now they got to figure something out because they're going to have to utilize Jalen Hurts in the run game a little bit more to try and help open up some lanes for Saquon Barkley because that's what worked so well last year. They did the RPOs. They were able to keep defenses at bay. Who's going to take the handoff? Is it going to be Barkley? Is it going to be Hurts? There's a lot of things that helped build off of that success. And, of course, it also helped that the offensive line paved the way in a historic fashion, something that they just simply aren't doing this season. So I thought it was interesting that has come out. I thought some of the conversation surrounding Jalen Hurts, though, was utterly ridiculous on some of the radio stations. One show was talking about benching him for Tanner McKee. That's not happening. If you bench Jalen Hurts, you can almost guarantee that he will be demanding a trade because that would signify that they are placing all the blame on Jalen Hurts. And now I'm not omitting that he doesn't deserve to be blamed at all. He certainly is a reason why this offense has been struggling the way it has. But you still have the offensive line struggling. Saquon Barkley said he's in a funk. The coaching staff, Kevin Patullo and Nick Sirianni. I've been saying their names so often this week. But Kevin Patullo can't get Nick Sirianni's offense going. Although that isn't news based on what we've seen in the past. It takes an outside offensive coordinator who has that experience to kind of figure out how to make this offense work under Nick Sirianni. It took Kellen Moore a little while. It's taken Patullo even longer, which is not great for the Philadelphia Eagles as they are trying to avoid a similar ending to this season as they had in 2023. So we'll see what happens with Jalen Hurts. I don't love the discussion of, bench him and that'll send a message to him. No, he knows he's struggling. He is trying to do everything he can. He has limitations just like every other quarterback in the National Football League. He's also playing behind a bad offensive line. I mean, look at Josh Allen. Everybody loves to compare Jalen Hurts to Josh Allen, right? Josh Allen's offensive line has been atrocious. They are injured. Just a couple weeks ago against the Houston Texans, he was sacked a career-high 8 times because why? He has no protection up front. So I know fans don't love when their teams select offensive linemen in the first round of drafts, second round of drafts, but that is how you build a team. And we're seeing it right now with the Eagles struggling in that department for the first time in a long time. And it's a trickle-down effect where it's hindering Hurts, who already has some limitations, and it's hindering Kevin Patullo because he's calling plays and it's not being executed, and it's hindering the entire team. They're averaging 15.5 points per game since their bye week. So let's pump the brakes on trading Jalen Hurts. Let's pump the brake on benching Jalen Hurts. And yeah, he's having a down year. I agree with that. But he's not the sole reason why this team isn't winning. They won a Super Bowl last year, and yes, it's a team effort, but go back and watch how good Jalen Hurts was in that Super Bowl, please. Totaled 4 touchdowns, 2 rushing, 2 throwing, when Saquon Barkley didn't do anything because the Chiefs made sure that he wasn't going to win that game for them, and Jalen Hurts says, all right, I got this. But again, Jalen Hurts isn't that quarterback that can do it on a consistent weekly basis, which is obviously a problem. However, we don't need to ship him out of town already after winning a Super Bowl just 11 months ago. Wrapping up the show here, we're going to talk about the quarterback that will play opposite of Jalen Hurts, and that is Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert is in the news because he just had a procedure done on his left hand that he fractured this past week against the Las Vegas Raiders. There's some speculation if Herbert will be ready for Monday night. Herbert came out and said he is preparing as if he will be playing against the Philadelphia Eagles. Meanwhile, Coach Harbaugh said that they are also prepping backup quarterback Trey Lance just in case Justin Herbert can't go. Herbert's having a solid season. He's a gunslinger. He's top 10 in the league in passing yards. He's top 10 in touchdowns. He's got 21 touchdowns. Does have 10 interceptions. So if the Eagles can get some pressure on Herbert, something they were unable to do against Caleb Williams, they could potentially force some turnovers against Herbert. He's got a QB rating of 94.9. He's solid. He just hasn't been able to win the big game for Los Angeles. And you look at this Chargers team, and they're kind of up and down right now, just like the Eagles. They are also 8-4. They're pretty solid at home, 5-2 coming into this one. But this is a game where Justin Herbert, if he doesn't play, would obviously help the Eagles' odds in winning significantly. But even if he does play, you got to keep an eye on it. It's his non-throwing hand. It's the left hand. But if he gets hit the wrong way or if he lands on it the wrong way, it's going to be tough to manage that type of pain. So we'll see what it entails. I don't think he'll have much of a cast on. Maybe he'll wear a protective glove. That remains to be seen. But it will be interesting to see what Justin Herbert will do against this Eagles defense that had struggled again Friday, but it was against the rush, not the pass. And this is a Chargers team that started off hot, 3-0, but they lost back-to-back games after that to the Giants and the Commanders. They lost to the Colts when they were red hot. And they lost to the Jags 2 weeks ago in Jacksonville in embarrassing fashion, 35-6, before getting right against AFC West rival in the Raiders. So this is a team that I don't think should scare anybody in that regard. I think it's more so, how will the Eagles potentially lose this game and get in their way? That, I think, is the bigger concern than what the Chargers do, because they're a solid team, but they don't have any signature wins. And Justin Herbert, as I mentioned, if you get in his face, you pressure him, he's going to try and force some throws into tight windows, and the Eagles could potentially be opportunistic in that regard and try and take away a couple of possessions and give this Eagles offense more chances to get right and to score some points out in SoFi Stadium come Monday night. So that will just about do it for this edition of Eagles Latest. As always, thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe, like the channel, and drop a comment below. Let us know your thoughts. Game predictions, score predictions, anything of that nature, I'm all ears. And we will talk to you tomorrow as the Eagles do hit the practice field. And we will also keep an eye on the injury report for both sides and also keep you up to date with other storylines as the week progresses. As always, thanks so much for watching.